Hey guys, good to see you guys in the chat already. Some early arrivals as usual. Nice to see you guys. So yeah, let's give like everyone like a minute or two to join, and then we'll start with analyzing the markets. You guys all good? Enjoying the weather? Because I can't. Fucking hell. So for the people that like were asking themselves why I wasn't around on Friday, I got kinda screwed. um, I was visiting a friend and he got he got COVID. So now I'm pretty much quarantined. See what's up, and then yeah, it's kind of like it's the worst of every world. So it's super hot out, and I can't go out. But then I'm locked inside, so I could trade if I wanted to all day. But I mean, just look at the price action and look at the title of the video, right? Nothing's happening. So it's kind of like, yeah, I'm just stuck at home playing Age of Empires, playing video games, doing nothing with myself. But it's all good. It's all good. Hope you guys are having a better time than I have. A brief summary of the complete crypto markets, perhaps. Yeah, I'll do. I'll see what I can do. We'll work with chat today, see what's up, because I mean Bitcoin's not doing much. But before we start, big shout out to the sponsor of the show, Bybit. Thanks a lot for sponsoring and making this show possible. I appreciate it. Cred appreciates it, and I hope you guys appreciate it as well. If you do want to check them out, links are in the description. But yeah, it's really nice of them actually. Let's see. He's not playing Valorant, dude. Valorant seems so boring. Not gonna lie. I've tried to watch some streams, and at first it's fun, and then I don't know, kind of the same thing all over again. Like every time it's the same thing. Age of Empires 2, yes, yes, godlike game. Okay, so I think we've got everything out of the way. We'll quickly go over Bitcoin just because we've had the monthly close and shit. And then once that's done, we can do whatever you guys want. I'll let you decide because really we've talked about a lot of stuff already in the recent weeks, and there's only so much to talk about. So could do like a Q&A session or whatever you guys want. Think about it in the next like 5 to 10 minutes, and then hit me with it once I'm done with Bitcoin. Okay? Sick. So yeah, monthly close. We've finally closed the monthly, and I mean, it's pretty much played out the way I feared it would, as in just turned out into pretty much a nothing close, because this is what a lot of people were watching for the monthly, right? Like, okay, they were like, okay, this is the breakout, and now we're going up, but the close is so marginally above resistance that nothing really, like for me, this not really a breakout. It's just creeped above the resistance, didn't do anything. That's what we kind of talked about last stream, and it's kind of played out that way, right? So didn't really manage to hold back above it. Now a lot of people would say in like the opposite fashion, okay, this is a breakdown. I wouldn't agree either. This is just chop around the level, and I mean if this weekly turns like if this monthly closes red, then we could say okay, this level acts as resistance, but until then, like for me, this is still just the resistance from the get-go, right? This was at resistance, like it closed at resistance for me. This still closed at resistance, and but it's not convincing, right? You wouldn't necessarily want to take a trade off of that, just because the resistance hasn't really acted the way it should have, as in immediate, had an immediate kind of pullback or something. It just literally closed a tiny bit above it, and it closed a tiny bit below it. Nothing really happened, right? So monthly complete nothing burger, and the weekly. Look at the weekly. The weekly really didn't do anything either. We had a spike into resistance last week, spike into support. I mean, it's kind of sad that I have to even point these like tiny shitty supports out, because those are this is kind of the range we're trading in, which is tiny, right? After like this kind of move, we're having a very, very constricted range, and there's really not much action going on. So if you're a trader and you're not in a position, I mean, there's really not that much to get from this, in my opinion, high time frame wise. If you're trading low time frames, I mean, maybe, but even then, you're paying a lot of fees for tiny moves, right? So it's not necessarily a trader's environment, but then again, like if you've been long from way low, this doesn't really matter to you. And honestly, like this consolidation, right? We've talked about why I think this is bearish last week, where I said, okay, like you've had these kind of pokes above resistance, didn't really close above it and stuff. But this kind of pullback into support, slow pullback, isn't necessarily bad for the bulls, right? It's not a sign that we're just gonna go straight up, but it's definitely not something that the bears want to see, because Bitcoin likes to have these kind of slow pullbacks into support, wait till no one's watching anymore, and then break up most of the time. Sometimes, like if this breaks down, it's going to break down violently, I think. But most of the times, these kind of patterns play to the upside. So we'll have to see. But the weekly definitely not bearish to me. But yeah, if it breaks down, I think the next support's down here. I kind of redrew it in the last week. I think this is the best kind of support area that you can get. Because before, if you remember, before we had this, like a box here and the box in this area, I think this is better. Just the box in the middle of them both, because that's kind of where I want to see if I get a buy, if it really breaks down. And I would not never touch, like if it starts breaking down, I would never touch it anywhere in between. I think, thinking about it, the longer it goes, the worse that kind of buy gets. So anything in this area is definitely not something I'm looking at. Okay. So that's Bitcoin, but there's really nothing going on. Like even on the daily, like we can go all the way to the 1 hour chart. Actually, the daily is actually kind of interesting, a little bit interesting. So we can talk about this for a while. So a lot of people have been watching this ascending triangle. It's not necessarily the way I trade, but I mean it's good to know where it's at, so you can kind of use it as confluence. For me, Jesus, let me remove this. For me, this is like the trading range is more important, and I've tweeted about this, where we've had a fake breakout to the upside, and then we broke down below, right? This is the weekly support that we just drew earlier. I can remove this as well. Now we've kind of done the same on the opposite side, right? As long as you close back into this trading range, that would actually be bullish. Like if this daily doesn't get rejected here, which I mean, to be fair, it's both the ascending trend line here and the bottom of the trading range as resistance. Like there's a lot of confluence that you have for like bears. But if that doesn't do the trick and we start going back up, I think it's probably gonna squeeze to the upside. So that's kind of what the only kind of thing that you can look out for on the daily, I think. So this being pretty much like this gray box being the same as these red boxes, just inverse. So a break below a range and then a reclaim. So that's kind of what I'm looking for on the bull side. If that happens, I could see myself positioned for like a rate of the highs, like either of 9.8 or even all the way to 10.5. But if it doesn't happen, and I mean, like I said, this is confluent resistance, I think it goes slower. And given the time that it's spent up here, like I used to want to buy like below this swing, right? Below the swing low. I don't necessarily want to do that anymore. I think that's too soon, given that we've spent 60 days in this range. So it's either this and then up, or It's a breakdown into weekly support, which we talked about is around 7.8 to 7.5, I think. It's how I'm gonna play it anyway. So I'm not gonna buy, like, I had the plan to buy 8.5. That's taken too long, got front run, all that kind of jazz. Not interested anymore. Now I want lower or a reclaim of this trading range. Are you married, Doug? I don't know how you came to like that topic, but no, I'm not married. Not married. I'm single right now too. So, any ladies in the chat, please do hit me up. I'm just kidding. I know nothing to do with you guys. I've had enough. I've had enough pictures sent to me. Please don't send any more. Okay, that's Bitcoin for me. I don't think there's much more to it. This is actually the most interesting time frame, the daily. That's why I've been updating it on Twitter all the time. Yeah, if it plays out bullish, I mean, that would one make this a trading, like make this a false breakout of the trading range, and also a fake breakout of the ascending triangle or whatever you want to call it. And then I think there's a good chance, like if it starts going up here, it's probably gonna start breaking out here. And I honestly think if that's the case, I think it does something like this. Maybe goes to 11.5 and then completely mega dumps. So yeah, I think it's actually better for the bulls if this starts dumping here, goes to 7.5, 7.6, and then pumps, because then it can go higher. But I mean, I'm up for both. And I mean, I have no problem starting to short 11.5 again. I mean, that just sounds good to me. But yeah, I mean, if you're asking me up or down, I mean, could do either. It's at resistance and it's a confluent resistance as well right now. But if that gets broken, I think move up, highly likely. If it doesn't, then we move down. I think a move up is likely as well, but just from lower. And yeah, so these two are my options that I'm willing to trade. Like I definitely short up here and I definitely long down here. And I might long if we reclaim the daily trading range. Okay. A little bit more exciting than I actually thought. And I mean, I made this chart earlier to show you guys what I was thinking about. Hope it makes sense. Will you buy Bitcoin then instead of altcoins? Yes, definitely. I mean, if I get Bitcoin set up, I don't want to be an altcoin buyer, right? I've tried that before in the past and it's worked out like half the time. Like I used to look at Bitcoin and then take ETH trades off of it. But given that like that only works half the time, sometimes you buy this and you get a bull setup and it rallies 10% and ETH BTC dumps 5% and you're just stuck holding ETH USD while it doesn't move. I just like to play the setup that's in front of me. It's much easier with regards to stop losses as well, right? So let's say you get a bullish setup on Bitcoin, it goes up here, and then you know exactly, okay, where do I put my stop loss, right? This should be my invalidation, right? This low here should be the low if my theory is going to play out, at least on a closing basis. And then you go to ETH, and ETH BTC does something stupid, right? And you get stopped out because of that. Like let's say Bitcoin trades back down here, and then meanders upwards, and ETH just for some reason like just wicks very low. ETH could stop you out while Bitcoin wouldn't, and your setup is still intact on Bitcoin, and you just get stopped out in ETH. It just doesn't make sense. Traders don't need girlfriends. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily agree with that. That sounds a little bit of an extreme stance to me, but I mean, all power to you. If you're looking for something else than a girlfriend, I mean, it's 2020, right? Everything's allowed, dude. Will you please mention on Twitter if you buy anything like you always did? I might, yeah. I mean, I've been getting more and more tired of Twitter, but I'll see what I can do. Okay. Preach brother, all the sinners trading all the time. I don't know what I missed here, but yeah. Okay, so that's Bitcoin for me. Like I said, please hit me up with whatever you want to do now. We could talk about ETH USD because there's actually like some kind of bullish setup there as well. On the higher time frames, much clearer than Bitcoin is. Or we can just do whatever you guys want to do. So I'll leave it up to you. Just hit me with your suggestions, and then we can make it work. Actually, while I wait for you guys to type, because apparently you need forever to do so, I'll just talk about ETH real quick. So this is my ETH chart, right? It's been this way for a long time, and one thing that you can see is that we're kind of bullishly retesting support. So that's one of the reasons why, like you heard me say, if Bitcoin can reclaim the daily support that it's lost, right? This daily support. Let me quickly show you again. If it can get back into this range, I wouldn't be opposed to longing. And the reason for that is that there's ETH confidence in higher time frames, right? So you have ETH at support, and that's usually not bad. Like if you get first signs of bullishness on Bitcoin with like a range reclaim or a lot of other things, I mean, however you want to trade, right? But if you get a bullish setup on Bitcoin and you have ETH at support, that's usually a good sign. It's something that you wanna watch. So yeah, that's the only thing that I can see. Like, there's not really anything on the monthly going on, right? I mean, I'll draw a quick chart for you guys, right? So there's resistance up here, the support down here, right? That's the range. This has been ranging, and I mean, for the guys who've been following me for a long while, I mean, I bought the lows the first time, sold on the way up, didn't get the high, I think, if I remember correctly. It's been ages already. Bought it the second time, sold into resistance, and then, like, I sold way too early in here, sold into resistance, and then it nuked, and I didn't want to buy again. But we kind of, like, some people in the stream did get lucky, or like did catch the bottom when we streamed on the nuke day. But yeah, this is the range, up, down, up, down, up, down, right? And it's not quite at the range high. So there's not really anything on the high time frames, and on the low time frames, I mean, this is just choppy. There's this resistance here. If we close below it on the daily, I think Bitcoin's probably breaking down. So that's something that you can watch if you want to have like an like a daily trigger or something. Like if this stays above here and Bitcoin gets back in the range, it's probably a good sign. So far, I mean, this could just be the week, right? We don't know yet. So gonna have to wait and see for the daily close. Hi, hi Don. Could you cover the subject of laddering into positions, pros, cons? Is it something you ever do? So laddering into positions, right? It's actually a good question. I think you don't need to ladder into positions if you're not having liquidity issues. So let's say you're trading a $100 account, right? You're gonna get filled. Like one person market sells, you're gonna get filled. So you put a limit order at the level or at the price you want, you get filled completely. It's not a problem, right? Let's say you want to fill a $1 million position, right? Let's not, like, doesn't even have to be Bitcoin. Let's say you're trading ETH USD, you want to fill 1 million USD long position on ETH. People see that position and they're like, okay, maybe I just front run this guy, and then you might not get filled. But it's still very likely, right? Let's say you trade 5 million and you have that on ETH. It's very likely people see that and are like, holy shit, this guy really wants some ETH. I'm not gonna get him filled. I'm just gonna front run it. So your $100 position, I mean, just get it at the level that you want it, right? Doesn't really, like, I don't really see the need to split it up. I mean, you can, but there's really no need, right? Because the thing is, like, if you split up, the only way that you're gonna get filled if it's gone, like if it's going against you, you're gonna get filled fully. If it goes your way, you're gonna just get filled partially. So you're gonna be halfway in the position when it's really bullish, and you're gonna be full in the position when it's just straight up nukes. That seems like a bad idea to me. So I mean, as long as it's not for liquidity issues, and even then, like you just spread them apart by a few dollars or like by $10 for Bitcoin. I mean, that's you can make that work. But yeah, for the reason that I outlined, like you don't want to be like in the bad trades, you're always going to be full size. In the good trades, you're always or like oftentimes you're going to be half sized or like quarter sized. I don't think that's a good habit to get into if as long as you don't have like liquidity issues. So that's my view on it. A lot of people kind of scale into positions, scale out of positions. I mean, scaling out, I'm not really opposed to that, but like getting in is usually for me. And even like if you have liquidity issues, right? It's not like I would put them like for Bitcoin, for example, like have one order at 9.1, one at 9, and then 8.9. That doesn't make sense to me, right? I much rather have it like a few dollars apart and then spread it out over like $50 of price movement. That much like that's easier to get filled. Um, how's the Doge plan working out? I mean, it's literally not moving, bro. That's what. Look at the title of the video, bro. It's a Snoozefest. Nothing's moving. Nothing is moving. I mean, finally we've had some movement on Bitcoin today, right? This like a tiny bit of movement because I literally for the last week I've been looking at the chart and it's always been 9.15. Like it's literally always been this level. Every time I look at the chart, it's at 9,150. So it's moved a little, but nothing big so far. And same thing for the altcoins, for most of them anyway. I know that most altcoins are not relevant, but damn, it hurts me not seeing Ethereum Classic in your list and watching more shitty ones there. ETC usually takes big moves, good for trading. I mean, there's ETC is on my list. Where is it? I know I have it. There's it. Look at that. I mean, I am watching it. Like this is a setup that I made ages ago. People would make fun of me for this. Haha, you took profit way too early. I mean, I didn't actually take the setup. Like Loomdot asked me what, like he was like, "What do you think about ETH Classic?" And I was like, "Okay, I mean, I can see like a bullish trade, and this would be it." And I mean, this is just how altcoins work, right? If you're right, you're probably gonna be more right than you think, and if you're wrong, you're probably gonna be more wrong than you think because yeah. But this isn't looking too good. You don't want to see this kind of stuff. It's a retest, right? And I mean, this stream is gonna be all over the place. So if you guys mind, do let me know. But I'm just gonna do like questions and all that kind of stuff. And then please do let me know how you like it at the end of the stream because I can do this more often if you guys like the format. But I can also just go through the list and do my usual thing. But I can see that getting boring really quick, so we can shake it up. So this stream's gonna be a little bit of that, answering questions, talking about stuff. So yeah, in this case, you've had a breakout, right? A massive one at that. Kind of got rejected, and I know a lot of people are gonna be like, yeah, but it ran so much higher. But we got rejected here at this level. The spike above is just illiquid move up. It's whatever, right? I mean, you can draw this as resistance, whatever. This is the resistance that rejected it, and you've had a trading range down here that led to this breakout. The worst thing in like for all coins in general, or like in general in any market, like this works pretty much for any market, is having a trading range, having a breakout, and then getting back into the trading range. Like that usually at least leads to something like this in the bullish case. And you might say, okay, Don, but this isn't this. This is doing this. right? And it's now retesting the top of the trading range. And that might be true, like it could get bought up here. But usually you don't really want to see this kind of stuff, because once it starts bleeding into that support, the chance of it breaking down is actually very high compared to if it stops here. Like if this was the bottom, like in here someone asked me about it and I was like, I could see this go up. I'm not necessarily as bullish, like bullish enough to buy it, but this isn't too terrible. But the moment it's like this support, like let me actually draw it so you guys can see what I'm talking about. Like the moment this area in here, right? I mean, however you want to draw it, like you could use the wick, like this entire, let me make it a box. This entire area turned from support into resistance. That's where it gets dicey, because honestly, like the bullish altcoins and the bullish trades in general usually play out like this. Even if they pull back, they don't get back to the top of the trading range. They front run the trading range. If it gets back to the trading range, it's more than likely to break down. So not too bullish here, even though it's at support. I mean, in my opinion, the safe play if you want to trade this kind of stuff is waiting for it to kind of turn this back into support. And then you have a decent kind of invalidation with this low. But I'm not even sure if I would want to take this trade just based on this bleed out, because this bleed out is brutal. And I know a few people that are stuck in ETC longs. And I mean, if this starts going down, they're going to be sweating, I think. So, yeah, not looking at it for that reason. Like, that's why it's not higher in my list. Anyway, Doug, where you recommend to learn technical analysis for traditional market as a trader, Doug? I mean, you gotta go to like just how I would do, like recommend you do it for crypto markets. You look at the market, you follow it for a while, you follow like the news cycle, everything, and look at the charts and see what you can figure out. Because I mean, every market trades differently, right? Crypto is not, it's very different from like traditional markets. There's some concept that kind of overlap, but it's not really just one to one. Like you couldn't put me into the traditional markets and make me trade the way I trade crypto. Um, I don't think it would be like long term viable. I mean I like to trade the, like I like to look at the SPX, for example, when it's volatile, and I mean I can kind of see these breakdowns and like based on news and stuff. Like I was pretty bearish due to COVID and due to everything like up here before it broke down. That's the kind of stuff that I can see an edge in that market, but like my usual kind of trading style wouldn't do too well there. So I mean, I just trade the big stuff, and then just zoom out very very high. So I mean, it's up to you. You just have to watch the market. I don't think there's as many edges in the traditional market as there are in crypto. Like crypto is much easier to trade, but then again, I mean, we're pretty much trading like the FX right now. So yeah. Um, Give us a Loom update, please. He's doing well. He's having a battle with a tree every day, pretty much. Just speeding it up, waiting for 10K. So yeah, he's doing well. Don't have to worry about him. But I mean, he's probably like, I mean, if you tell him that you miss him, he's probably going to be happy about it. So, I mean, do tell him that you're missing him. Would you still support Bybit if they started playing BitMEX tactics? Noticing connection errors at busy times lately. I mean, it's kind of funny. Like, I've never been one to subscribe to like BitMEX is necessarily overloading on purpose. It's just a lot of people are using BitMEX, right? And the reason why it's starting to lag and stuff, or why it started to lag, was because it wasn't built for that amount of people to trade on it. I mean, am I 100% sure that there is nothing nefarious about what like BitMEX has been doing? No. But I don't think they are. Like, they make so much money that it doesn't really make much sense for me for them to kind of tickle everyone out of their money. Makes very little sense to me. So the fact that Bybit's been getting a little bit slower, according to yourself, I really haven't noticed too much. Just means a lot of people are using it, right? It's getting more popular. So, I mean, I don't subscribe to the yeah, whatever. Conspiracy is such a bad word, but yeah, I don't think there's like people sitting at BitMEX just being like, how can we overload to make the most money? I just not something I subscribe to. If you do, I mean, all power to you, right? But yeah, I wouldn't. Doesn't really make much sense to think that way, in my opinion. Hi Don, could you maybe show some Huobi altcoins? Nah, bro. No, sorry. It's not something I follow much. Like, I don't trade there, so like it's irrelevant to me. So, but we can talk about other stuff. Can you share a new edge or two based on your trading style in each one of your Wednesday streams, dude? You're asking for much. Why would I give that away? Like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, I'm already giving away way too much for free. Like, sitting there being like, okay, I found this edge. I want to share it with you guys so that it's not an edge anymore. Doesn't make sense, right? Um, I mean, I already explained. Like, the thing is, I look at the market a certain way, and I mean, if you listen to me, see what I do, see how I draw my lines, see how I kind of interpret them, you can make up your own mind about like why I do what I do. And I mean, if you can come to the same kind of conclusions, you can draw from it. But I'm not going to be sitting here being like, okay, if you see this and this and this, do this and this and this, because I mean, that just dilutes my stuff. Doesn't make sense. But I mean, I'm more than happy to kind of get you on the right path, which I think I'm doing. I'm trying anyway. But yeah, okay. So we talked about Bitcoin. Can talk about a low time frame too, because I mean, what you're seeing here is the most boring price action ever, but it's kind of repeating itself over and over again. So you got a spike downwards, get another spike downwards, set a high, rate the high. Get a spike downwards, get another spike downwards, set a high, rate the high. Set a spike downwards again, and then we set a high somewhere, bleed back down, rate it, might even be rating it into here, and then go down. It's like it's been repeating over and over and over again. It's not something I'm really interested in trading. I've seen a few people trade it in the last few days. I mean, all power to them. But I don't like to trade like the 20, 30, $40 moves because the thing is, and a lot of people kind of seem to forget that, like you're paying fees, right, for market buying and market selling, and the most people market buy and market sell. So let's say like you're trading these movements, for example. Let's say you traded this to perfection, right? You bought the close down here, and then you sold the high up here, right? So you played a $66 move, but from that $66 move, you paid $14 move, like $14 of that move in fees. So, um, I mean, that's just like, I mean, let me actually get that open. So let's say you bought it perfectly, the close, whatever. You have a stop loss, like let's say down here. You're trading these kind of moves, right? And I mean, that's already like a terrible trade, but whatever, let's ignore it. The thing is, your stop loss based on the fees alone has to be $14 lower. Like your calculation has to be $14 lower, right? Because you're paying those fees. And then also, if you're wrong, you're probably going to get slipped for a few dollars. So the trades gets way worse. Let's say you got the bottom, for example, and trade like this. Like that's an insane trade, you would think, but really, if you add those $14, like your stop's $27 away, you add $14, right? So your stop's down here now, and then you add slippage, which you're gonna slip for like a few dollars if you're wrong. Looks very different, right? And that's when you catch the absolute bottom, which is not gonna happen. So let's say you do the same thing in the middle of the wick, have your stop down here, $14 lower, and then you see like how this is just not worth your time. It's obviously different if you limit in, limit out, but generally speaking, I mean, if you're wrong, you're gonna have to market dump via your stop. So I mean, it's not the kind of trading that I would want to do. It's much better to kind of play the bigger moves, which I mean you can do. Like let's say you get in somewhere here, have your stop down here, then those $14 are just a tiny percentage of your entire stop, and then the trade's much better. Because really, like if you're trading small moves, really small moves, let's say you buy here, go up here, like $100, $200 moves. All you're really doing is you're trading against someone, and then you're trading against the exchange. And I mean, the exchange part that you have to kind of make up with skill is just much higher, right? So it's kind of the way you have to look at it is the higher your time frame is, the less impact that $14 stop, like those $14 fee or fees have on your trade, because in this case it's 10%, right? Or like even less of the trade. So it's not as noticeable. Whereas if your stop loss is $14 away and you're paying $14 in fees, you see where that's kind of starting to get like in a bad territory. So the impact of the exchange fees get lower the higher the time frame, or the bigger the move that you're playing. So I mean, just makes sense in my opinion, because it makes sense to play these bigger time frame moves, just because the impact of the exchange robbing you blind. Which I mean, we don't even have high fees, but in general, like in crypto, but in general still, like if you're trading on high leverage, these tiny moves, the impact of the exchange fees are gonna rip you apart if you're not really good. If you're really good and you have a huge edge playing these like $40, $50, $60 moves, I mean, that can still be worth your time, right? But you have to be good. Because, I mean, it's not just a 50-50 up or down. It's in that case, if your stop's 14%, like $14 away, and then the fees are $14, it's not a 50-50. You're suddenly playing in a very low percentage. I hope that makes sense. Just like me going on a rant. So I see a lot of people kind of advertising the low time frame stuff. I mean, if you have an edge, that's all good. If you don't have an edge, don't do it, because you're just gonna pay fees. And even if you're like 50%, like let's say you have just make trade, like you make the equal amounts of money on a trade that you win, that as in a trade that you lose, you're gonna bleed out based on exchange fees. Why never look at Monero charts? Not a tradable crypto. I mean, it's a tradable crypto, but it's very boring, right? I mean, I don't trade, like I try to avoid boring coins, even more so if it's like an altcoin. And I mean, like let's say I'm sitting here trying to trade Monero from day to day. I mean, I'm having fun with like 2% moves, and on altcoins the fees are even higher. So I mean, can't really trade this. You could trade these kind of moves, but then again, there's other altcoins that do bigger moves. And I mean, this is as the highest volatility that we've seen for Monero for a while, right? Other than on the downside, because I mean, these moves were smaller. So this is the biggest trading range we've had so far. But I mean, why would I want to trade this if I can trade this stuff? or like in general, like this is much more lucrative for you. Because let's say you're buying Monero, right? Or like you're a trader and you're trading mainly Monero, right? And you're getting in, let's say down here because you missed the range low, getting down in here, you're sitting in the trade for a month and it hasn't moved. And then you go out and you're not at a screen for a second and something bad happens and you get stopped out while you're not even at your monitor. And then you've waited for 30 days, haven't had the capital to play something else. Just not something I can recommend. But if you're a spot like buyer interested in Monero, if you like the project, I mean, you just buy it and then you just don't look, right? Or I mean, even if you look, like there's nothing lost on that side. So I mean, there's some stuff that you can. It's very similar to BAT in a sense, even though like BAT's had this kind of run based on the recent DeFi hype. It's still like it doesn't really move, right? Very little oscillation in the last year. So even if the project is good, like why would you want to actively trade this if you can look for other coins that move more? You believe we will ever see 20K again? Yeah, I think so. I mean, at some point. I would be surprised if it was this year or next year or the year after. But I mean, happily surprised, obviously. I mean, it's always good for me. I mean, this is my main market, and if it just keeps going up, keeps going up, that's good for me. So, yeah. Cret mentioned compounding trades on Monday. Can you explain how you would compound a trade? I usually try not to. I mean, I I've made like most of the time when I try to compound the trade, it works out. Like I can do it once, maybe. Like let's say you buy support, and it, like you've had a dump out of the trading range, you buy here, and you're like, okay, I want to add once it breaks out of the range. I mean that's fine by me. If it's not pre-planned, I think it's a shit idea to compound. Like it's one of the worst things that you can do. Like let's say you bought this here targeting the range high, and you're like, oh shit, it broke the range high. Instead of selling the range high, I'm just gonna be buying more, compounding it without a plan for it in the first place. You're just gonna be buying here, then you average here, and it mega dumps, and you're in a trade that is shit. In comparison to, okay, I've planned to buy here, planned to sell the range high. You get out and then just wait for price action to develop. I mean, I've seen a lot of people, like pretty much everyone that I've seen blow their accounts is when they compound in a bad way. And I don't think it's good for any kind of new person to compound trades. It's obviously personal preference. But yeah, I'm not a big fan. If I want to do it, I pre-plan for it, and then I usually don't add more than once. And I usually try just not to, because whenever you do it, you like let's say you have a really nice entry, right? And I mean the entry, whatever, you can say the entry is meaningless, but then again, like it's also if you have a really nice entry, it's a really nice invalidation point, and then the moment you start adding, you raise it to a point where you just you're just ruining the trade, in my opinion, because really like the opportunity, like the risk, not only the risk reward, but like the general like the trade is the most valuable down here, right? The more it goes up into like your target, the worse. And we talked about this in both the live stream with Loomdart and Jules, right? Like let's say you have a trade set up. The more you move up, the worse the risk reward gets, right? So here you're risking this. Price goes up, you're not only risking this, you're also risking this. And then you're just like, okay, price went up, I want to compound, and then you add here, and you double. Not only like you have this risk, you also have this risk, and then you tend like try to double both. Just I don't like it. I mean, some people do it successfully, and I've seen some people run their accounts up really high by compounding. And the funny thing is, pretty much everyone that I know that does it has blown like one of those accounts. So I mean, not my kind of thing to do, but some people do it successfully. I just rarely see them. Another thing that like the only way that I can like do compounding with a clear conscience is when I get multiple setups in a row. Like I get a really good weekly setup on Bitcoin, right? Let's say it's at support. I get a really clean setup and I buy, and then I get a daily setup as well, a little bit higher. Like that's like I would treat it as two different trades then, and that's fine for me. But it still has to stay in the like in the risk limits, obviously. But yeah, SC does nicely. He's goat. Yeah, I mean there's some people that do it well. Most people don't, or like most people look really good while they do it, and then they blow their account. And there's a few people on Twitter that, I mean, that's happened to a few people that I know from Discords. I mean, if you remember Ask Me How, for example, um, guy ran up an account from nothing to like 200K or something by compounding, and then literally got liquidated the next day. So, I mean, it's nice and all. You have an account and then runs up. And the thing is, like, what you're doing when you're compounding with no regard to like risk limits, and I know that wasn't what wasn't what Cred was talking about. But if you're compounding with a very loose kind of view on risk in general, um, all you're doing is you're pretty much like the chances of you blowing up are high by compounding, right? And then the longer you are doing it, the higher they go because you just have more time for something crazy to happen. And so what Ask Me How, for example, did I think he longed here because Loomdart and I told him to, or was it here? I think it might have actually been here, like after this move down. And then he added and added, and everyone was talking about how big of a god he was. And then he added, and then even though he bought here initially, and he would have made a few Bitcoin on the way up, right? So like his one Bitcoin account went to like, I don't know how much it was. I think it was like 20 or 30. If he just held the position that he had from here, he would have been like at 5 or 6 or 7, right? From like the lowest start. And then he got liquidated at the bottom here, even though he bought down here. So I mean, it looks all pretty while it goes up, and you look like a genius. But the chances of you getting liquidated or like getting your account like blowing your risk out of proportion, like it doesn't even have to be liquidation, right? It just could be like a 20% loss to your account, even though your trade is really good. Like his trade was really good; he could have held that forever. Um, the chance of you being wrong increases, and I don't want to do that. So I mean, I'm never gonna tell anyone to compound a trade. Um, even more so if you don't plan it from the get go. I mean, let's say you buy down here and you're like, okay, if this is an ascending triangle, I'm gonna add on the first consolidation outside of it. I mean, that's fine by me, right? If you're like, okay, I bought here, it breaks to the upside. Oh shit, I wanna have more and more and more. With that mindset, you turn your winning trade into a losing one. Would it be easier to compound if you had a if you had a hedge? I mean, the hedge thing is a meme on Twitter as well. So I mean, we can talk about it as well because a lot of people are like hedging all over the place, and it always sounds good. And I mean, you always sound like a genius when you do it. Um, but really, like, let's say you long down here, right? And you're like, okay, I'm starting to hedge my position here. all you're doing is you're decreasing your long. All you could be doing, like you have like, let's say you have 100,000 contracts long here, and then you're hedging 50K contracts. All that you're doing by that, like let's say you short like you long here and then you short on another account or something, like as a hedge. All you're doing is you're decreasing this long, right? So you have 100K, you're starting in hedge of 50. You're paying double the fees, pretty much, and it doesn't really help you in any way. You could just be decreasing this position. The only reason why you're not decreasing this position is because you want to keep that entry. You're like, oh, I long the bottom, I'm a god, and I'm hedging, and then if it goes back up, you can be like, oh, I was just a hedge, right? The hedge thing is a ginormous meme on crypto Twitter, because you can never be wrong by hedging, right? I mean, I've seen one of the bigger accounts lately on the SPX, fucking hilarious, dude. He's was posting about shorting this entire fucking leg up, and then somewhere up here is like, okay, it's just a hedge. I'm always long the SPX, it's just a hedge. Dude, you just lost money shorting on the way up. Like, it's complete and utter bullshit to think that way. Like, if you're just, oh yeah, it's just a hedge, I just random willy-nilly like put out trades. I mean, you can never lose like that, right? Because I mean, it's easy to just say, okay, nothing's lost whenever something goes against me because it's just a hedge or whatever. It's bullshit. Like, whenever someone does something like that, I'd be wary of what they're doing, in my opinion. But it's just my opinion. I mean, I like to use hedge myself in situations where it's actually where it actually makes sense. Like, you have spot, like let's say you have spot holdings, and then you hedge by shorting derivatives. That's different. But even then, like, the overuse of hedge is kind of starting to annoy me a little bit. It's yeah, if you long here and you hedge here by shorting, I mean, just take some off of that position, and then you can add it back on. But it's better fee wise. It's better trading in general. Or like, if you wanna like use hedge in the right way, I mean, if you're trading options or something else, I mean, don't do it on the same contract. That doesn't make any sense. The only thing that you do is that you're kind of increasing your chances of getting blown up. Or like let's say the exchange goes down or something happens, something crazy happens, like something where you have a Darth Maul and both positions get liquidated, right? It's just it's not a good idea. Or both positions get stopped out and you actually lose more than you would have in the first place. Hope that makes sense. It's just kind of me going on a rant anyway. Like, it's not a big problem. I don't think it's necessarily terrible. I mean, you can talk about hedges. I do it just because of how easy it is. Like, sometimes I do talk about hedging. But yeah, if it's just a hedge, if you lose, I don't know. But yeah, try to just kind of, if you're in a long trade and you're trading the same instrument, it's not really a hedge, it's just you taking profit. And you don't have to do it on a separate account, you can do it on the same account by just reducing your position size. Don, do you think altcoin bottom would be a Bitcoin top, or when, for example, Bitcoin bottoms, let's say somewhere around 7.1? I mean, it used to be that way. Bitcoin tops, altcoins pop. I would think so, yes. I think that's just the most reasonable kind of way for things to go. So Bitcoin distributes, and then, like, while Bitcoin distributes, like, let's say Bitcoin has a parabolic run, right? Altcoin Bitcoin pairs obviously can't catch up, right? Or can't follow Bitcoin because it's just going too crazy. It always happens. And then they kind of mean revert, and that mean revert gets a lot of people excited. They take the Bitcoin, buy altcoins with it, and a lot of new people come into the space and buy altcoins. And for buying altcoins, they have to buy Bitcoin. and then kind of a distribution of Bitcoin takes place while altcoins rally, because that's easier to do than keep Bitcoin rallying, and then Bitcoin dumps off and altcoins dump off. That's kind of the play. That's kind of how I played 2017 and 18 in the playbook. You look for Bitcoin distribution, um, and I mean, you see it when altcoins just go absolutely mental. It's happened several times since then. It does make sense, but it isn't the only way that altcoins can rally. We've had rallies that were different before. If I just think about like the 16, 17 rallies, like it's been the case in here and to extent in this entire area. And I mean, you could even argue that it was weaker in here. You had some altcoins kind of rally towards the tops in this kind of entire market, right? From 6K or like 9K to 6K. It's kind of stopped working a little bit during the later times, but in general, like this is the times where it's been working really well. But we've had rallies of Bitcoin before, where altcoins, not all of them, but some of them rallied. And I mean, I remember my first real big Dogecoin bubble happened. I mean, look at this. We've had a Bitcoin bull market from 15 to 17, right? And then you look at the Dogecoin chart, and early 17 to middle of 17, we've had a massive Dogecoin rally. And that wasn't just a Dogecoin rally, that was also like Bitcoin not doing too poorly. So we've had kind of started here. Bitcoin was going up, Dogecoin was going up as well. You had a Bitcoin dump, but still, like here you had like a massive Bitcoin run while the altcoins are going off. So it's not necessarily one or the other. It can be different. It doesn't have to be always like altcoins only go up when Bitcoin is just distributing, but it's the best kind of alt, like the biggest and the easiest to trade alt seasons are when Bitcoin is distributing, in my opinion. But it doesn't have to be that way. Like a lot of people kind of get it in their head. Okay, it has to be this and this and this way, and they miss out on chances. Um, the market's never just a copy paste of what happened in the past, so it always evolves. You always have to kind of follow it, right? Have to keep up to date with it, and I mean, you could see altcoins rally while Bitcoin rally. Can you talk about that then, please? Spot hedging. I mean, that's just literally the way it goes, right? Let's say you have 100 Bitcoin in your wallet, right? You have 100 Bitcoin in your wallet. You're like, okay, shit, Bitcoin's topping, right? Bitcoin looks like this, and you have 100 Bitcoin, and you're like, holy shit, this can't go on forever, right? It just can't. It's gonna dump. But it's gonna dump, and then it's gonna keep going on at some point. I really don't want to get my wallet out and sell all of these 100 Bitcoin because that's a hassle. It's going to be difficult to do. It's probably going to be a taxable event. I just don't want to do it, right? So what can you do to avoid that? You can go on a platform, for example, Bybit. Thanks for sponsoring this, by the way. Let's say you have 100 Bitcoin in your wallet, right? You take 10 Bitcoin of that, send it to Bybit or another exchange. Doesn't have to be Bybit. But given they're the sponsors, it makes sense to use them as an example. Send it to Bybit. I'll call them BB, right? And then you use leverage, like a 10x leverage. Or like, I mean, this is already, it's pretty high leverage, but like you use leverage to short the amount of Bitcoin that you have. So you would short 100 Bitcoin on Bybit with the 10 Bitcoin that you have there. You still have 90 Bitcoin in your wallet. You only have 10 on Bybit. So if you're like, okay, I just want to make sure that my money is not trapped on an exchange. I just want to make sure that I don't have to move all this I just don't want to take the security risk of moving this much money around. I still have it, right? That's kind of way you can hedge your position. And then you're short 100 Bitcoin, you're long 100 Bitcoin because you still own those 100 Bitcoin, right? So you're essentially at zero. So if Bitcoin price moves up, your Bitcoin value appreciates, but you lose money on the short. So you end up with zero. If Bitcoin goes down, your Bitcoin value goes down, but you make money with the short, so you end up at zero, right? So that's kind of the easiest way to hedge your spot, because really you don't want to be putting like your 100 Bitcoin, or like if you, let's say you're trading with 10, you could do the same with a zero less, or if you're trading with one, same thing, right? That's the way to use leverage. The way to not use leverage, like a lot of people are, let's say you have one Bitcoin in your wallet, and you're like, but I would like to have 100. Like, I would like to trade with 100. So, how do I get these 100? And then you just use your one Bitcoin, send it to Bybit, leverage up 100x, and you have 100 Bitcoin, and you can trade with 100. That's not how you're supposed to trade, right? Because that's just going to get you liquidated. The way you're supposed to use these leverage like platforms is by reducing your risk, making it easier for you to kind of play with your positions, kind of make sure that you're secure all around. You're not trying to increase your position size, because I mean, really, if you're using like, if you're like, I have one Bitcoin, but I would like to trade with 10. I mean, that one Bitcoin is going to turn into 0.9, 0.8, 0.7, and it just keeps going down. Because the higher you turn the leverage, the more the fees are going to hurt you. We talked about this in the earlier parts of the stream. So, I mean, yeah. But I mean, I know that I'm not going to be able to tell people to not over leverage. I mean, I've been fighting that battle since 17. It's impossible to win. I mean, just keep it at a minimum, and like, don't try to be a hero and kind of bet it all on black or red. I mean, you can do it, but then know that you're a gambler, not a trader. So yeah. Kret just said we can legit make a mini video stream clip from your hedging explanation. Super well explained, dude. Did you see my drawings? I'm gonna be embarrassed about it. But yeah, I hope that that was that made sense. I mean, it makes sense. I hope it makes sense to you, right? I mean, I know I made sense. I just hope you understood me making sense. And yeah, that's just kind of my way of looking at it. Don't try to be the hero and start gamble. Like, I mean, you can gamble, but then know that you're gambling, not trading. Because the worst thing that you can do, like, I don't have a problem with a person that's like, okay, I'm depositing $100 every month to gamble on like leverage trades. Because I mean, honestly, like, if you're going to the casino, you're gonna have worse odds than trading these, or like gambling in these markets, because the fees are really not that high. I mean, you can just gamble, and if it's gone, it's gone. You had your fun, right? If you go at it with that attitude, go ahead, right? But if you're like, okay, I'm a serious trader, and then you end up spending your money gambling, that's the worst thing, because then you kind of make an excuse for yourself, and then you're gambling, and it's not a way to go about it. And it's the same with like going to the casino, really. If you're going to the casino and you're like, okay, I'm a professional gambler, or like a professional player, whatever, and you keep on losing money, I mean, you're not a professional player, you're just a gambler. So, I mean, gotta know what you're trying to do. And I mean, if you're over leveraging all the time, I mean, you're gambling, you're not trading. And I mean, gambling is fine, but you gotta know what you are. Are you a gambler or a trader? I think. Either way, I think that's a long enough tangent. And I mean, I've talked about it enough, so I'll leave it. But yeah, I mean, I still remember back in start of 2018, right? So Cred and I were joking around. My Twitter account was still pretty new, or like I didn't have many followers, and Bitcoin's just dumped. Like I think that was this dump, really, like this dump. And then Cred made like a joke tweet about like if you have any kind of problems with investing and stuff, please DM Donald and he's gonna answer them all. And he had like a big account already, so I got like 300 DMs of people telling me that they've lost a shitload. And I mean, that's just kind of put everything in perspective, like pretty much straight from the get go. Because I mean, there were like people betting their houses on altcoins, just keeping on going forever, and it's just not something you want to be doing. And yeah, so I got 300 DMs. Thanks, Cred, by the way, for that. That was fun. Of people like having gotten blown out completely, and that was up here. That wasn't even down like at like 6K. That was up at like 10 to like 9 or whatever, like on that spike down or something. So yeah, I know that that's always gonna be the case. Like, there's no way that I can protect people from doing that. It's just the greed. But I try to at least make it clear that, I mean, if you're doing it that way, just stay reasonable, or try to at least. Didn't you tweet how depressing that was, seeing all the messages? Yeah, I actually struggle, like, in real life. Like, I couldn't sleep and shit. That was really bad. Like, people betting their children's school money, people betting their houses on the market, like just going straight up. People going into debt, that was the worst. Like, straight up, like getting money from other people. And then the worst thing was, like, they got money from banks, and then once they couldn't repay those because they've lost so much, they went to like their friends and stuff and got money from them. And like some of the stories that I got were really, really bad. So yeah, stay sane. Whatever happens, like let's say crypto goes to 30K and you're like, I have way too little. I mean, stay sane. Just do it for my sake, because I'm gonna lose my sanity if I have to do that ever again. Emotional trauma times 300. Yeah, that was bad. But yeah, thanks guys for coming by. It was fun. It was a little bit out of the ordinary. Let me know how you liked it. Big shout out to Bybit for making this happen. I mean, I always have fun even when the market's not moving. Just hanging out with you guys, just good fun. So they make it possible. So I mean, I appreciate that. So big shout out to Bybit, and yeah, do let me know what you guys thought. This was kind of like a little bit less scripted, I would say. Just like straight up doing the chat, doing like random analogies, talking about random stuff. Did you like it more? Did you like it less? Did you like it enough to like the video, or like even subscribe, or did you not like it enough? Do let me know, because I mean, yeah, subscribe to the channel. Oh Jesus, Kret's already doing his stick. Like I was trying to kind of be nice about it, but he's coming in with the battering ram. So yeah, if you don't subscribe, Kret's gonna kick in your door, I'm pretty sure. So it might be better to just do it. Great stream. Okay, so at least one person gave a little bit of feedback. I'll ask again next time, whatever you guys want to do. So yeah, thanks guys. Do not forget the technical roundup stuff. The newsletter is actually free now, so you can subscribe to that. The links in my Twitter, I think the most recent post or the one before it. If Gret's still around, he can post a link real quick. If not, you'll find it on Twitter. So you can just subscribe to that if you want to get it. And yeah, Guest on Friday? No, it's not gonna be a guest this Friday. It's just gonna be old Cred and me. If Cred wants to, it's either gonna be me or it's gonna be Cred and me. Cred still has to decide. We'll see. We'll see what's going on. So yeah, thanks guys for coming by. See you guys on Friday.